Welcome, I'm David Cuerpo with the Seattle Fire Department, and here with me today is Medic 2 CPR instructor and retired fire lieutenant from Renton Regional Fire Authority, Johnny Bell.
Good morning, everybody. I'm so glad to be here with you, with David. David and I have been doing these for like a couple of years now. And I want to talk to you today about something that's very important that even a lot of people don't realize that they can do, and it's called hands-only CPR. So what does that mean? Hands-only CPR means that I can do compressions without ever have to worry about taking a pulse or giving breaths. Now, this is something we can do mainly when we witness an event compared to if we just came up on a person and discovered that they were down and they were unconscious and unresponsive. So what do you think we should do right now, David?
Well, in the essence, October is Sudden Cardiac Arrest Awareness Month, and so I think this is a perfect topic to go over hands-only CPR. So would you mind covering the basics of hands-only CPR, and then we can go into further detail later?
Yeah, let's do that. So I'm going to stand up for this because, you know, before you engage in any type of emergency, it's very important that you recognize the scene that you're in. Now, most scenes are going to probably be safe, but we always want to formulate a mindset of checking the scene, even though it may appear to be safe. So I'm going to stand up for this, and we're going to go over some real basics when it comes to doing hands-only CPR. So
I'm going to tilt the mannequin this way so that the audience can better see.
So along with hands-only CPR, I'm going to show you like correct hand placement. A lot of times you might see a training video where it will just show the person actually doing the compressions, but not really show you the correct hand placement. Now, we know that the hand's got to be in the chest because most of your heart lies underneath your sternum. That's the bone in the middle of your chest. And so we'll talk briefly about that before we actually do the compression. So let's just do real basics right now. So what's important about helping someone else? Now, we're talking about CPR right now, but any incident that you come up on, it's more important to take care of yourself than it is to take care of this person that you're going to engage with. Because if you get hurt, right, you're not going to help them. So we want to make sure that you stay safe. So the things that I was taught during my career is safety, safety, safety. So first thing I do when I see an incident that looks like it's an emergency, I look up, I look down, and I just take a look around to see if there's anything that could be a hazard to me, something that's unsafe. Maybe it's a slip hazard. Maybe it's something above that could fall on me. Maybe it's electrical wires. It could be a number of things. So once I do that and I say the scene is safe, I'm going to approach this person and I'm going to tap on their shoulder. Sir, are you okay? Are you okay? There's no response. Okay, if you have a cell phone, you can pull your cell phone out and you can dial 911 and put it on speaker and allow the dispatcher to come on and assist you. If there's people around, you can point to someone, be specific. This young man over here with the black shirt on, can you go call 911, tell them we have an unconscious person, get a first aid kit and an AED and return.
And then you want me to actually repeat that. Call 911, get an AED, tell them there's an unconscious, unresponsive person.
Yes.
Correct?
Correct.
All right, and then also know the location so that we can get there quickly, or first responders can get there as quick as possible, correct?
Exactly.
All right.
So the great thing about that is when you call 911, they're going to ask you certain questions, right? What's your emergency? They're going to want to know where your location is. They want to know the exact location because you could be in a building on the second floor in room 203. So all that information that they're extracting from you is going to be important for the responders to get there as quickly as they possibly can. So we're talking about that now because that's just as important what I'm getting ready to do. Because I'm only going to be able to do so much because when he comes back, it lets me know that he's made that contact, he brings the AED, I'll be able to utilize that. So let's say he's gone, right? And so I've already checked for, unresponsiveness. The person is responding. I'm going to take a quick look and scan their body for like 5 to 10 seconds to see if there's any signs of life, okay? There's no signs of life. I want to go ahead and bare the chest so I can see exactly where I want to put the heel of my hand. And it's only going to be the heel of your hand, and it's going to be on the lower half of the sternum, just above this little notch, which we call the xiphoid process. So we put our hands here, and we start our compressions. Now, we can count, or we can say, staying alive, staying alive, staying alive. It's that song that you guys remember way back by the Bee Gees called Staying Alive. So that kind of keeps us on pace. Staying alive, staying alive, staying alive, staying alive. So I'm going to keep compressing for as long as I can. And these compressions are going to go on until the AED arrives or to the professional rescuers arrive on location, which more than likely it's going to be the AED that arrives before they get there. So I'm compressing, continual compressions.
So now that I've arrived with the AED, I open it up. What do I do now?
Okay, so now he's arrived with the AED. So I'm going to take control of the AED, and if he can do compressions, I'm going to have him start those compressions while I set up the AED.
If you want to set it up right over here so they can better see.
Okay, so a green button is the on button, a red button is the shock button, and this gray button is just for like if it's a child CPR, which it will not be. So I'm going to turn it on first.
Adult patient.
So he's continually compression.
Is a child. Press the child button.
So we're keeping the person alive right now.
From the patient's chest.
So I removed the clothing.
Remove packet and apply pads onto patient's bare skin.
I'm going to apply the pads now. Tells me where they go. This goes on
pads as shown in the picture.
lower left rib,
Press pads firmly on skin.
upper right shoulder area, just below the collarbone.
Firmly on skin.
So make sure they're in good contact with the person. Okay, so I say clear.
Rhythm.
Aed's analyzing the heart rhythm right
Do
now.
not touch the patient.
Always go clear.
Heart rhythm.
Everybody's
Shock
clear?
Advised. Do not touch the patient.
Clear.
Everyone clear. Press the flashing shock button.
One more clear. I hit the shock button. Immediately start compressions.
Deliver. Begin CPR.
So it's telling me to start CPR, right? So anytime you get an AED unit, always follow the prompt. That way you cannot go wrong. So AEDs, once you deliver that shot, they go into like a 2-minute countdown. Some of them will let you know, then you're 30 seconds into it, a minute, minute and a half. So once it gets to the end of the 2 minutes, it's going to tell you to stop CPR and analyze.
Continue CPR.
So I'm going to turn this off. It's going into 2 minutes. I'm going to take us right to the end. So it's going to say stop CPR, analyzing, right? So it's going to go through analysis just like it did right at the beginning, right? Then it's going to say one or two things. It's going to say shock advised, charging just like when we started, or it's going to say no shock advised. So when it says no shock advised, it's going to probably tell you to continue CPR. If it doesn't, that's what you do. You start back and you continue with your compressions. So this is what we call hands-only CPR with the use of an AED. So we continue to compress. How long? Till the professional rescuers get there. Once they get there, they'll probably bring in their AED, all their other equipment that they utilize in an incident like this, and they will take over. So there'll usually be at least 3, maybe 5 people that are going to arrive on the scene. There'll be 3 firefighters, 2 paramedics possibly, or more. And they'll take control of the scene. They'll probably want to ask one of you questions about what happened, you know, how long were they possibly down, and then it'll just go from there. So that's pretty much hands-only CPR, David.
So when you're doing CPR and the first responders arrive, do they just tap you on the shoulder and they'll just take over from there?
Yeah, pretty much. They'll come over and, you know, they'll, like David said, they may tap you on the shoulder, say, we'll take it from here, sir, or take it from here, ma'am. And you're probably going to be talking with another person. They're going to collect some information, especially if you know this person, or they're going to probably find out if there is a family member, depending on what the location is. It could be in a workplace, it could be in a home, but they want to get certain information that they need to add to their report. So you're going to be pretty much done with what you've needed to do, but just remember this, you guys, this is so vitally important. What you just did before the professional rescuers got there is just as important as what they're getting ready to do. Because if you didn't do the CPR, the compressions to help keep them alive and possibly utilize an AED, the chances of their survival has already decreased immensely. So every minute that we go without compressions, their chance of survival decreases 7 to 10%. Now that's significant over time. So you're getting there If it's witnessed immediately, I'm telling you, if they survive this event, if the professionals get there and they take over the CPR, they utilize their AED, paramedics give them medication, they get transferred to the hospital for more advanced care, they go through recovery and they come out, then that's mainly because of what you did. Because after about 4 minutes of their heart stopping and their heart goes into cardiac arrest and there's no heartbeat, there's no oxygenated blood flowing through their body, after about 4 minutes, their brain cells die. And so we go from maybe about a 50% survival chance to probably less than 10% because they have no flow of oxygenated blood in their body for that time frame. So when we get it past the 4 minutes, 6 to 10, they can go into what is called irreversible brain death, where no matter what you do or I do or anybody does, it's going to help bring them back. So our resuscitation efforts are probably not going to be as good as they would be if we hadn't got there when we did.
So let's go into infant and child CPR. How does that differ in the hands-only perspective?
Okay, so there's a big difference here, guys, when it comes to infants and children. So with children, it's pretty much the same as you would do with an adult as far as your CPR, but you can use one hand instead of two. So everything will be pretty much the same. We're going to tap and shout, check for responsiveness, no responsiveness. We're going to do the same steps that we did with the adult until the AED arrives. Now, here's one major difference when it comes to infants and children. With children and infants, we can't just do hands-only. Okay, the reason why I say that is because their problem is because they choked where they couldn't get any oxygen. They got poisoned, which caused their heart to stop, go into cardiac arrest, or they got traumatized. And if they got traumatized where they get an injury, the chances are even less depending on what type of injury that they got. Maybe it was a car accident, maybe they fell, out of a tree or, got hit by a car, whatever it may be. So their heart stops because of that. And so doing the compressions only for them is not going to be good enough compared to if it was you or I, an adult person, because 90% of our problems is because of a heart-related problem, cardiac event that stopped our hearts. But with them, poison, choking, trauma, that type of thing, we've got to add respirations to that. We've got to give them breaths. So in this case, we do what is called 30 compressions to 2 breaths. So I can use the one hand to do the 30 compressions, and I would use a pocket mask if available to give the breaths. Now, if it's someone you're comfortable with, you can give them breaths without using a pocket mask. Okay, so with children and infants, because their face, their nose and their mouth are pretty close together, we can cover their mouth and nose with our mouth, or we can use the pocket mask. So the pocket mask has a little pointed end that goes over the bridge of the nose, and we just put it over the face. So let's say this is a child. This is actually an infant. Let's say this is a child. We got a smaller one here. We put it on, and we just push on the top of the mask and the bottom, and we breathe. Okay? So this is a child now, although this is an infant. I have an infant here. So if it's a child, I'm going to use one hand, compress, 30 compressions and 2 breaths. And the breaths that you give are just significant enough just to see chest rise. And that's true for everybody. So once you see the chest rise, do not overinflate the lungs of a child or an infant. So with an adult, if you give too much breaths over a period of time, they get what is called gastric distension, and they will vomit eventually, and they could aspirate in their lungs, and that will increase their mortality rate to like almost 80%. So that's the child. That's the main difference with a child and an adult. Now let's talk about the infants. Everything's different, guys, with the baby. And again, remember, you cannot just do compressions. Now, if you forget that and you're just doing the compressions only when they get there, that's better than nothing. But remember, why did they lose consciousness? Why did that baby lose consciousness? Now, they could have a congenital heart defect that would cause their heart to stop, but most of the children and infants that we see where they went unconscious and they stopped breathing and their heart stopped is because of one of those 3 things I just mentioned. So let's look at the infant. How do we check for responsiveness for an infant? We grab the leg that's closest to us and we tap on the bottom of the feet. Baby, are you okay? Are you okay? There's no response. You point to the person, the same thing you did with the adult. Make sure you, because there'll be several people, recognize one. Sir, were you with the black shirt? Can you go call 911? Tell them we have an unconscious infant. This is a pediatric emergency, and get an AED and a first aid kit if available in return.
And then to close that communication loop, repeat that back to you.
Yes.
I'm going to grab an AED, I'm going to call 911, let them know that there is an unconscious, unresponsive infant at our location.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's good. Remember, we're reminding you guys again about location. Very important. And sometimes we can send a person out there to guide them in to where that might be. I've had that happen many times during my career. So it's very helpful for us because we want to get there as soon as we possibly can. So let's say that he's gone now, and I'm going to go ahead and scan the body and see if there's any signs of life. There's no signs of life. Now, I'm not going to use a hand on a baby's chest. What I'm going to use is 2 fingers or 2 thumbs. So let's talk about the 2 fingers. So I'm going to find an imaginary nipple line, and I'm going to go 1 finger width below that nipple line, and I'm going to take my 2 fingers, and I'm going to start my 30 compressions. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6, 7 and 8 and 9 and 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. I'm going to either take my pocket mask, put it on the face of the infant, give them 2 breaths, breathe. I'm going to go back and do my compressions. If I don't have a pocket mask and I want to give breaths without it, I'm going to cover both the mouth and nose with my mouth and breathe. If you have a face shield, which I carry this on my keychain, okay, you can open this up and it has a little valve on it. You could put that over the mouth of the baby and you can breathe through that, and that will get the chest to rise as well. Again, only breathe till you see the chest rise and stop. That's more than enough breath for an infant or even a child, and even us too. We don't want to see chest rise on each one of us, and that's all we need to do. So I go back, I do my 30 compressions and my 2 breaths. Now, I mentioned the 2 thumbs. That's a recognized method now we can utilize. So rather than doing the 2 fingers, I can take 2 thumbs and I can put them in the same place where I would put my 2 fingers, and I can give the 30 compressions this way. So I can give 30 compressions, 27, 28, 29, 30. I can go and give my breaths either by mouth, mask, or shield. Either one works, whichever you're comfortable with. And so it's very important to recognize this immediately with children and infants. And these are the people that when they stop breathing, guys, and their heart's going to shut down, our chance to resuscitate them is not quite as good as it would be with an adult. But we're going to still do our very best, and that's all anyone's going to ever ask you. And remember, if any of these 3 groups of people survive this event, it's going to be what you were able to do before the fire department got there.
So again, thanks, Johnny, for demonstrating hands-only CPR.
Yeah.
So first off is, where can you get these masks?
Oh, this is a good question. I'm glad David asked this because a lot of people ask this in various classes that I've taught. You can go online and you just type in first aid equipment. You can go to what is called laerdal.com. And that will bring up first aid equipment for you. It's really easy to research if you type first aid equipment into your browser, and that'll bring up any information that you need to be able to go and purchase some of this equipment. That's how I've purchased a lot of my equipment, is by doing exactly what I'm telling you.
And then the other part, you mentioned the mask too. Is that available online too?
Yeah, this little mask that I carry around on my keychain is really pretty cool to have. It's got a little clip. You can clip it onto your keys that you use for your car or your home. You keep it with you. And these work really well because they have that valve that you can put right over the person's mouth and just blow right through it, just like you would be giving regular breaths. And you can purchase these online just like you can the pocket mask, the other equipment we'll talk about. Yep.
So The other part, let's say if anyone's interested in what an AED is. So that stands for Automatic External Defibrillator.
Yes.
Where can you find one?
Same thing. Guys, most of the stuff that, like I said, I've purchased have been through online purchasing. Very simple to type in that browser, and it'll take you to, it could be, there's several companies that you can purchase from, and it will just kind of guide you through the steps. That's exactly what I did with all of this equipment that you see. This is all training equipment, all right? So, like this here, this is an actual pocket mask that you can get, but this is a trainer, so you can get training or actual ones. Pocket mask doesn't necessarily mean you carry it in your pocket, okay? It comes in a little case that you can put in your glove box, or you can put in your first aid kit and have it available for you anytime you would need it. And this is a training device. Now you can purchase real ones, AEDs. We actually purchased one for our church community, and we put it in a specific location there, and it describes where it's located. And you do need some training on this. You can learn how to utilize it very easily, but you do need some initial training to be able to effectively use it and be safe with it.
And so the nice thing is when you turn it on, it pretty much shows you step by step, or tells you step by step the procedures for doing, to operating the AED. The other part is, we mentioned like where you can buy one, but where can you find one? When you told me to find an AED, what are the places people can look for one?
Good, so that's really important. I would say that, especially for your workplace, your schools, places that you work, you need to be familiar where your AEDs are. But there are sometimes that people come in and they don't know where they are. So they try to put them in strategic locations with a sign. They hang them on the wall in a place where it's visible to the public. Some of them are in cages that has an alarm on them because they're expensive units and we don't want someone walking off with it. So you open up the cage and the alarm goes off. And you'll see they're in a box. It could be a red box, a white box, something. It may even have a alarm light on top of it. And the boxes are unlocked because we don't want them to be locked if people need to get access to them. So when you open up that door, it will actually set the alarm off. And this is usually when it's out in a general foyer area where a lot of people come in. Otherwise, it's going to probably be not so visible in maybe a room, but we'll post a sign up that says AED. Now, everyone that's whether staff or volunteer or whatever that's going to be in that area needs to know where that AED is located, and you need to get familiar with it. Because the last thing you want is to have an AED where you don't know where it's at, or you know where it's at, but you have not become familiar with it. Again, it's not hard to use, but you do need some initial training. So it could be on your wall. We don't want them on floors, under desks, and places like that, or locked in cabinets. That's not what we want. We want a unit that's going to be a possible lifesaver for someone to be visibly available for anyone who is able to utilize it to help possibly save a life.
And so if you're starting a new job or joining a community center or a fitness club, it's always a good idea to ask, where's the first aid kit? Where's the AED? And how can I access it if I need to use it for an emergency, right?
Exactly. But I will tell you this, though, the thing about using an AED is, like David, he's talking about, people that are working in those workplaces. You'd be surprised that a lot of them don't even know it's there. But that should be something that should happen during your orientation, because we know our jobs well, right? You're there because you're like he was talking about fitness trainers. They know their job well. They know what they're supposed to do when it comes to helping people with fitness. But do you know what to do if one of those people in your area collapsed? Did you get trained with CPR? Did you get trained with utilizing an AED? So everybody there needs to know that. Sometimes I will go in and they don't know who I am. I'll say, "Where's your AED located?" And they're like, "AED? Yeah, automatic external defibrillator, right?" And you can say the thing that shocks the heart. A lot of people know what that means, but it's an automatic external defibrillator. And you just saw it, it'll guide you through everything that you need to know when it comes to utilizing it. But you have to know where it's at, and you've got to be able to know, be familiar with it, its operational procedures.
So when someone is experiencing sudden cardiac arrest, unconscious, unresponsive, you tell someone to grab the AED, nobody knows where it's at.
Right.
So one alternative solution is pulse point,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So we won't go through the app. I'll go through, I'll do a little video vignette going into features and details of it. But just talk about the app as to, there's 2 versions of it.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
There's the Pulse Point Response app, and there's the Pulse Point AED app. So let's talk briefly about the Pulse Point Response app. The Pulse Point Response app is an app that you can download onto your phone, your cell phone. And so what it does is a lot of departments are connected with that. And so if you want to be advised of a call that's within your vicinity, okay, within, I would say like a quarter of a mile or so, it will alert you that the call has happened. And if you're trained in CPR, you can actually respond to the call. Now, maybe when you get there are people that are already doing it, which is fine. But what if you get there and everybody's standing around? And so you can be able to help that person by, doing your steps, safety, and then going up and tap and shout, and then going through the steps that we just showed you on CPR. It may not seem like a lot, but if nobody's standing around and you're within like a couple of minutes there, you're in that time frame where you're going to increase their chances of survival. And that app is great. Download it. It'll take you through the steps, and I think David's going to, give you some videos on that. So that's the particular app. In a lot of departments, I know Seattle, Bremerton, and they're continually adding other departments that you will see on the app. And actually, you can see different calls that come up. Now, you're not going to respond to structural fires and different things like that. It's mainly for you to be able to help in an event that you have some training in that you can respond to, and that's mainly doing CPR. So that's the AED app for response. And
the nice thing about Pulse Point too, if you live in King County, is if you happen to see some sirens and firefighters and paramedics arrive on scene near your house or near your work area, wherever you're at, and you're wondering what's going on, just log into the Pulse Point app, and it will give you a pretty good description as to what the response is, correct?
Yeah, that is so cool, you guys. I mean, it's really a good community thing. Maybe you won't be able to do anything as far as actually engaging in the event, but if you see something and you can at least, know what's going on in your area, and we like to be people who can help in our communities as much as we can and safely as we can.
Yeah, and if it's happening, let's say it's a fire at a residence in your neighborhood, might want to be a good neighbor and see if they might need some temporary shelter or maybe some food or clothing, to, especially as we approach the colder months ahead of us.
Definitely, that's so true. You guys, it's so important that we understand that, because it may be someone assisting you as well as you assisting someone, and if we can communicate that out into our community and we use these different types of apps to do that, how much better would it be for our King County, South County, Pierce County, all the different counties which this app is available to. So I'm pretty excited about it, David.
Yeah. The other thing that we're mentioning about the AED is time is of the essence.
Yeah.
So as fast as you get chest compressions onto the person who's unconscious, unresponsive, and then get the AED to do its job, what if you work at a place that doesn't have an AED? What can you do to encourage your employer to acquire one?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I mean, there is some cost involved in purchasing an AED. But let me ask you guys this. I know you can't answer me here, but how valuable is a life? Maybe it's your life or the life of a loved one. You have to think that way when it comes to things like this. So I always say you can't invest enough into an AED where you're going to lose out. Okay, there's different models and makes out there, and you can find which one your budget fits. But I would say, if you invest in an AED, maybe it won't ever have to be used, but it's there, it's available if you ever need it. And so, and get a little training on it, and who knows, that one day could happen. Because, you know, we're all gonna die someday, and we don't know what that event's gonna involve, but if we can have life-saving devices and life-saving techniques that we can utilize to help save a life, because the CPR is actually helping to keep them alive, but these AEDs can actually save their life, because we can't do compressions forever, right?
A good way to think about it is your workplace or your school environment, whatever environment you're in, they normally have a first aid kit. They normally have a fire extinguisher if there's a kitchen area.
Yes.
So it makes a lot of sense to have an AED present and visible and known to the staff of where exactly it is, and maybe even do a hands-only course or a CPR certification course to know how to use it and the steps it takes to deploy it.
Yeah, that's so true. You know, it's just really basics, you guys. We're not asking you to be EMTs. I was an EMT, you have to be an EMT eventually as a firefighter. But we're just asking you to just know basics. You don't even have to really take a full certified level first aid CPR class to be helpful. If you just do this basics, what we've been talking about, that's gonna be enough to, you know, for a period of time before the professional rescuers get there. Trust me, I've been on calls where people were doing CPR, and the reason why we were able to keep that person alive and, you know, they go into a medical facility and recover fully is because of what they did. Because time is really critical in any type of event where a person's heart stops. Time is very much of the essence. And so we just want to encourage you to really consider investing in an AED. Invest some of your time into getting some of this training that we're talking about, and then stay up on it, right? Because over a period of time, you're going to forget. We all do, no matter whether you're a professional or a layperson, you're going to still forget stuff. So we have these ongoing trainings, you know, in our areas. You just have to find out which area is best for you, and give us a call, and we'll do more than what we can to help you to, you know, get this type of training. Some of you have already gotten some of this training just by watching us do this here online.
So I'm going to bring the adult mannequin back, and we're going to go through a little bit more detail on the hands-only CPR aspects. Because I want to cover some basics that people should know more information about.
Okay.
So first step, let's say you don't witness the person collapse, but you just found them on the ground, unconscious, unresponsive. First thing you got to do, make sure the scene's safe.
Yes,
right.
Definitely.
So check for any electrical hazards.
Yes.
If there might be even a scene of violence.
Yes.
Like, make sure that you're safe before you go and approach the scene. Okay, so
Definitely.
I've checked around. I think it's safe. I'm going to engage the person. I go ahead and tap on their shoulders. Are you awake? Please wake up. Are you okay?
Yes.
All right, no response.
No response.
Then if I'm alone, call 911, tell them my location, and location is important.
Yes.
So we're in a classroom at the moment, and I know the location,
Right.
but if you just tell them the general building,
that's
probably going to delay the response time, right?
Pretty much.
So when I call 911, I'll tell them, yes, I have an unconscious, unresponsive person here. I'm going to do CPR, and my location is the Joint Training Facility, 9401 Myers Way South, Classroom 1. Do I want to let the dispatcher know if there's any limited access, like our doors locked or whatever?
Yeah, you know, a lot of times, and I've been into dispatch centers in the past, and I know things have probably changed a lot over time, but one of the things they do, they have a call receiver, and then they have a call that can dispatch the call while they're talking to you. So you're not really slowing things down. They want to know what the nature of your emergency is and your location, so they can send that unit in the direction of where it is, and they can get additional information while they're actually responding to the call, which will save time. So I always just say, when they ask you the questions, just give them the specific answers, because they need to know your exact location. Because if we get to the area and we don't have the exact location, that's going to be another time delay for us.
So let's say I go ahead and make the phone call, 911, put them on speaker. I'll set them right down next to the patient, because I'm going to be essentially doing hands-only CPR.
Yeah.
What if I need a refresher? Does
Yeah.
a dispatcher kind of walk me through this?
Yeah, that's another great thing about our dispatchers. They do a great job. They've all been trained too, just like any of us. And they will take you step by step on what you need to do to give effective compressions to this person. So you might be a little nervous, which we all get a little adrenaline rush when we have situations like this. So let them take you through the steps all the way. You say, I don't know CPR, I can't remember what to do. So the dispatcher is going to tell you what to do. Or you have you check for responsiveness, okay? You know, and if help has been called, because you called them, is there Aed available, right? They're going to take you through all of those steps, even up to where to correctly put your hand on the person's chest, okay? So generally, as I talked about earlier, it's on the lower half of the sternum above what we call the xiphoid process. So it's just a heel, and then the other hand goes up over the top, and your shoulders are in line with the middle of the body as much as possible, and you just start compressing. Okay, and you can do that staying alive, staying alive, staying alive, staying alive. And you continue to do that, guys, because we do want to have some type of pace that's going to keep their heart beating at a good rate. So the normal heartbeat is between 60 to 90, but we're trying to get 100 to 120 compressions within a minute here. So if you use that staying alive song, you're going to be pretty close, if not exactly what you need to do to keep their heart beating and keep that oxygen flowing from their heart to their brain, because that's what's going to keep them alive. Those are our two vital organs.
Got a question for
Yeah.
you. Staying Alive,
Yeah.
that's a song before my time.
Yeah,
So,
beats-
how many beats per minute should I be doing?
Beats per minute. Again, we want to get 100 to 120 within a minute. All right, so it's going to be a little bit more than your normal heart rate for most people, which is 60 to 90. Okay, so as long as you're compressing, like David right now, he's doing pretty much perfect compression. Now I have a feedback on this mannequin. There's two green lights and he's right on. So if you watch what he's doing perfect compressions. If he went a little bit faster, that light would turn yellow, which means you just need to slow it down a little bit. If he goes too slow, it'll turn one green instead of two. So people don't have this on them. So you just gotta find a nice pace. And like David said, that song's before his time, okay? So it's just staying alive, staying alive, staying alive. Or you can go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and just keep going until you get into your teens. And it's 13, 14, and just a normal count, not too fast and not too slow.
And let's say I was able to find a defibrillator, someone was able to bring it to me.
Yeah.
It looks pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
If I've never used one before, it has images right on the patch of where I'm supposed to place this.
Yes.
So this one looks like it goes right on the lower part here.
Yep.
If I flip it over, it goes on the opposite side, diagonal.
Yes.
Right around there. And then I just turn this thing on,
Okay.
and
So,
it walks me through it.
okay, let's turn it off first.
Yeah.
Because what you want to do first is turn it on, okay? And this happens to everybody, even in our classes that we do. They see the pads and they put them on. Now, we teach them to turn it on because with the trainers, if you put the pads on before you turn it on, it's going to take you farther than where you need to be, right?
Oh, got it.
So with a real one, it may not do that, but we want you to go by the trainers because they usually try to create these trainers similar to what you would do with a real one. So these ones, they have sensitive pads. Okay, I like this Aed Trainer because it has sensitive pads. So David's going to turn it on, and then it's going to take you on the steps on where to put the pads, because even though there's pictures there, if you have pictures and voice, that's going to even help you even more to correctly place the pads.
I'm going to turn it on.
Turn it on again.
Sorry for going ahead.
That's okay. Hey, I've still got to learn things too, you guys.
Press the child button.
So this is not a child, so we're not going to press the child button.
Remove clothing from the patient's chest.
Okay.
Okay, clothing has been removed.
Remove packet and apply pads onto patient's bare skin.
Okay,
Press pads firmly on skin.
I
Press pads firmly on skin.
like that. Make sure it's coming in good contact.
Do not touch the patient. Analyzing heart rhythm. Do not touch the patient. Analyzing.
And that's always a clear, you guys.
Shock advised. Do not touch the patient. Everyone clear.
Everybody's clear?
Press the flashing shock button.
All right, I'm going to press it.
Okay.
Shock delivered. Begin CPR.
So I
So
go
there you go.
straight into doing CPR.
Straight into CPR.
Okay.
So there you go. That's the AED. A couple other things real quick. Hairy chest. Pads won't stick. A lot of the AED units will come with razors. So if they got a real hairy chest, you don't have to shave it completely like a clean shaven face, but we need to get enough hair off the chest to make sure that the pads stick. Okay, that's just one thing to keep in mind. The other thing to keep in mind is that where is the person lying? If they're lying in a puddle of water, you want to try to get them out of the water as much as possibly can. If it's just a wet ground, you're okay. But the puddles of water conduct our electricity, and we don't want you to, that's a safety thing. We don't want you to get shocked when you shock the person. All right, so we don't want them to be in any type of significant water. We want to make sure that the chest is fairly clean and not wet, so you can dry it off with a towel or something. We just want the pads to be able to stick good enough to deliver the shock through the heart, and that you don't get injured in the process. So this is a couple of things, David.
Yeah.
To remind you guys of if you're ever utilizing an AED. And they go into more depth and detail on that stuff in their actual class, but this is enough for you to be able to give effective CPR and the use of an AED.
Just to go ahead and have a seat. Questions for you as we go further, a deep dive onto this is like, what if I'm afraid of hurting the person?
Yeah, that's a good question. That comes up too. If you're in the correct hand placement and you're not like on the ribs or too far down into the sternum, what you might hear when you push on the chest is tearing of cartilage. And that's perfectly normal, because what we're doing is not normal, okay? Pushing on a person's chest is not normal. But this is the only thing that we have right now that we can help keep them alive. So when you push on the chest, you might hear this tearing, this popping, but that's normal, and it'll be less and less as you go on with your compressions. If it's an elderly person, you might hear that, and some ribs might fracture because some of the elderly people have what we call osteoporosis, and they have weak bones. And so again, I wouldn't be too concerned about that, because the only way they're going to know that you fractured them is they wake up and say, my chest hurts. And that's a good thing, because we're keeping them alive, right, by doing the CPR and hopefully utilizing the AED. So you hear that, don't be concerned. Are you hurting them? Yes, but it's good if they wake up and say, my chest hurts, right?
Yeah, it's better to live another day.
Better to live another day. So we're all excited about that, helping to keep people alive.
One thing I also noticed too is where that person is if they're unconscious, unresponsive. Whether it be their bed, or let's say they were in a car accident, and the airbags deploy, they're unconscious, and you happen to witness that. Either way, it's better to do CPR on a hard surface.
Yes. And the reason for that, you guys, is if you're doing CPR on the bed, you're not going to compress the chest deep enough. The chest needs to be compressed at least 2 inches for adults and children, at least 2 inches, and 1.5 inches for babies. So getting them on a firm surface is really, really important in order for you to do effective compressions. Otherwise, you're just going to, as you push on their chest, the seat or whatever cushion is going to go down and you press. You might get some compression depth, but probably not enough to squeeze the heart, effective enough to circulate the blood. So, and we want you to be careful. We don't want you to injure yourself. We don't want you to hurt your back, because if you got a back injury from doing that, then you're probably not going to be able to do compressions. It's going to be agony for you. So, you want to do the best you can. If you can remove them, use your legs if you need to drag them somewhere. Do not use your back. And I don't care how strong you are, it really is important to not use your back when you're trying to move, or get someone else to help you. Okay, that would be the best way to do it. And you can get them onto a firm surface away from the environment if it's dangerous, and then start your compressions.
It's not required to really have a mask. I mean, as pocketable as they may be, it might be forgetful just to bring one. So how dangerous is it really to do mouth to mouth when necessary?
Okay, so statistically speaking, People who give mouth-to-mouth breaths, there's been no real reported cases of anybody contracting anything significant, all right? Those are statistics. Those are reports that we know about. Now, we're not saying that if they got blood and body fluid and stuff on their mouth that you should engage with that. If you can clean that facial area up as good as possible before you do those breaths, then by all means do so. And do it if you feel comfortable with doing it. All right? We're not telling you to do it. We're just saying if you feel comfortable. Because if you're compressing the chest and it's within the 4 minutes, then you are circulating oxygenated blood. The problem is, did we discover this person later on compared to if we witnessed it? Because if we discovered them later on, then, independent, there's no obvious, they're not obviously dead, because they can be obviously dead where they have what is called avidity, a pool of blood, or rigidity, or those types of things, which are obvious. And you'll notice that. It'll be really cold to the touch. You're not going to resuscitate them. But if you're within that time frame and you don't have a pocket mask and you feel comfortable with giving the mouth-to-mouth breaths, you got to make sure you pinch the nose with adults and cover mouth and nose with a child or an infant, then by all means do it. But clean it up, clean the face up as best as you possibly can. And most times it's going to be someone that you probably know and you're going to feel okay with. But still, it doesn't matter if it's a family member or anybody, if they got blood or saliva or anything that you can see, clean it off and go ahead and give the breaths.
So, personal question then. Mm-hmm. You've been a firefighter, a lieutenant for a number of years. Mm-hmm. How many?
33 years.
So, in your 33-year career, mm-hmm. have you had any saves?
Yes, it's so interesting that David would ask this question. We're not promised to resuscitate or save anyone. We've been trained to do it. We do the best we can. But I've had instances where we have come on location where a person had been down for a significant time, and we started CPR and we saved them. We resuscitated them. Maybe not there on the location, but we got them with the help of the paramedics, got their heart beating, got them in a facility, and they recovered weeks later. And then there have been times we've been sitting up talking to people. And I'll never forget the one time we were talking to this lady, and the paramedics were there, we were all there. She had an IV where she's doing good. And the last words that came out of her mouth, she says, "I just thank God for you boys." And she keeled over just like that. And we didn't resuscitate her. We were right there. She had everything she needed. And we were not able to bring her back. So those are rare instances in both situations where you've come up on this person, they've been there for a little bit, and you were able to do CPR, and they went into hospital and came out. And there are times when you might be there and they die and you never get them back.
So sudden cardiac arrest, mm-hmm. It's the awareness month for October. It's a stressful life or death situation.
Yeah.
And so for folks who are not first responders or in the medical field where they have to perform CPR on a regular basis, mm-hmm. It can be quite traumatic. Mm-hmm. Are there methods for them to understand, like, did the person make it? I'll answer that question. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And the key thing is, whatever fire service responded, so paramedics, firefighters, look for their insignia. So if it's Seattle Fire Department, mm-hmm.
You
can look us up on the internet and you can send us an email.
Mm-hmm.
And for us, it would be the PIOs. So
yes.
Seattle Fire Department Public Information Officers. I happen to be one of them. Mm-hmm. And so our email is sfdpio@seattle.gov. Mm-hmm. Send us an inquiry saying that you helped a person who was unconscious, unresponsive, performing CPR, and give us the general location of where that happened, and we'll be able to communicate with the hospital that they were transported to and get information as to whether or not they made it.
Yeah, that's why, we love that, you guys. We love it when we hear people telling us that maybe you helped them, all of us helped them, and they survived the event. Because a lot of times they don't, but it's so good. We know when they don't, but we need to know when they do also. And to me, I just feel like this really just brings our community together to know that these things that we're offering to the general public do work, right? And that they are appreciated when you utilize them and you report about it. We want to know if that person made it. And we send condolences for those who don't. But as long as we continue to do these training courses and classes like what we're doing here, and you utilize that and you're able to help save someone's life, please report that. Seattle, I mean, I know they would love it, and where I used to work at Renton Regional Fire Authority or any of the fire departments, they want to hear about that because you guys are special and we need to hear from you.
And the other thing as well is the person survived. Not only are they thankful, but their families and loved ones are all very thankful.
Yes.
It's quite common for us, I'm talking about being a public information officer, that the survivor will want to reach out to us to say, do you know who helped me?
Yes.
Whether it be the firefighters, the paramedics,
Yes.
or any bystanders there.
Yes.
And sure, we can get that process, and if they request a patient reunification for all the people that helped save their life,
Yes.
We'll make that happen.
Yes.
And if a bystander, if you happen to be involved and you call us in and let us know, that helps us then reach back out to you if that patient requests a reunification. Because if it were for me, if I survived a sudden cardiac arrest, I would definitely want to thank the people that helped me,
most
every
definitely.
single person involved.
Most definitely, David, you know, and we've had people that have come back to the department and they bring us, you know, flowers or desserts, you know, just to show their appreciation. And I think that's really what it is. It's not so much as the flowers and the desserts, it's the appreciation that they're showing to let you know that we appreciate you guys. And we want you to know that we appreciate you too, you know?
Yes, because the person who finds a person who's unconscious, unresponsive, calls 911, performs CPR, that contributed to a majority of the success if they survive.
Yes, yes, and that's something we'll never stop saying. It is a major contribution to the survival rate of people out there. We think it's all just the professionals. Guys, trust me, it's not. We can't get there. We can't be at every call at one time. So what you do before any of us get there is critically important. So when they do the statistics, they're not just talking about Seattle fire or Renton Regional fire. They're talking about the community. You guys are involved in the success of helping to save lives just as much as we are. Yeah, we do our training, we learn the specialized training, but all this equipment wouldn't matter if we just didn't do the basics before the professionals got there.
And let's say you wanted to know more about CPR, maybe even get certified. Where can they go? If you live in King County or Seattle?
Yeah, there's different organizations that help to certify people for first aid and CPR. I know that they can reach, for Medic 2 program, they can reach out to Seattle Fire. There's a lady I've been working with for 20-something years named Barb Bright, and she sets up these community courses, and some of them are, you know, more of a certified level, more than just hands-only CPR. I actually do some personal training myself called Quality First Aid Training. You can find me on Facebook, and I can actually, even if I don't do it, I can get you connected with people maybe in your area. We love doing that because we realize it's not just our little community, it's the communities that surround us that we want to get more of this training out. Because when you look at it from a long-term perspective and you see the survival rates going up, why is that? Is that because we got all this significant training? No, it's because of you guys taking this training and doing what you do before we do what we do. That increases our survival rate. So it's all of us working together. And so these courses are different places. You can look online, like I said, Quality First Aid Training, that's my company that I've been doing for a number of years. Medic 2, we do all different types of levels of courses. So whatever you want to do personally or whatever your company wants to do, please gain access to these areas that we talked about, and we'll do whatever we can to get you set up for class.
And then for King County, you can also look at King County EMS or Emergency Medical Services to inquire with them for CPR certification courses. You can also reach out to the American Heart Association or ASHE as well to see where they might offer CPR certification.
And Red Cross as well.
There you go.
So there's a lot of organizations, guys. There's nowhere that we can't reach to as long as we know that you would like to have these courses. And we're all pretty much work from the same guidelines. So whether it's American Heart, American Red Cross, ASHE, American Safety Health and Institute, which I'm familiar with each one of these, we teach by the same guidelines. And every 5 years we upgrade it or update it to let you know what has changed, but usually not much change. If it does, it's going to be more simpler, more effective for you in the community.
Another thing to note is October 8th is the 51st anniversary of our Medic 2 program. And to give you a little bit more information about that is 52 years ago is the anniversary date for the Medic 1 program that trained paramedics. So our Seattle Fire Department, along with King County, when we started training paramedics, happened around 1970. That's when we went on their first calls. But the key thing that was made important and made more aware to the fire department was the importance for bystanders to know CPR because they happen to be the ones on scene that report the incident. So they're first on scene before us as first responders arrive. So the Medic 2 program formed in order to teach the public hands-only CPR and CPR certification because it's so important for the success and the survival of the patients. And so you've been a Medic 2 CPR instructor with us for quite a long time.
About, gosh, over 25 years now, you know, and like David said, it's a great program. I mean, David was talking about 70s. I was in high school at that time, and then 5 years later, I find myself in the fire service. And so I was coming along about the time they were, you know, introducing this. So I feel like I've been a part of this for most of my life, and I always will be. That's my plan anyway. I want to continue to do this for the rest of my life as long as I can, because I see the value in it and people that want it, because it's needed. You know, we don't like the fact that people collapse and go without a heartbeat. That's not something that's fun for any of us, especially if it's a close family member. But at the same time, if we have some of us trained in this, maybe we can resuscitate them and give them some more life.
Right. The other thing too is, you know, with the Medic 2 program, it's trained nearly 1 million people in its existence. What people may not recognize is that before 1970, performing CPR was not a well-known thing. It was mainly confined to the healthcare environment, maybe in the military. But even among first responders, it wasn't really well known or even well received. But until we had Medic 1 program, Medic 2, and we started seeing people survive. That was game-changing and really set the initiative of making sure that everyone has a chance to know what hands-only and CPR certification is.
Yeah, you know, it's amazing. David mentioned that. I was thinking, you know, when I started my fire service career, we didn't utilize Aeds at the time. And when we started, we were using these paddles. We started using the paddles, and we would train on using paddles, and then of course everything changed as we went into what is called automatic external, where we put patches on. But we started with the paddles, and that was the first time. Like David said, that was something they only did in the hospitals. We didn't have that training or the ability to do that. But then they realized, well, if we can train the people in the hospital and the healthcare field, why can't we do it with the general public, with the firefighters? Of course, it started with us and branched out, and so here we are today. I mean, we've evolved greatly, and I'm believing, Dave, we're going to even see some more significant changes in the future.
Yes, and we're always looking for feedback as well as to how we can improve our hands-only and CPR courses. And so we can only do so much online and over video, but it's really important to do an in-person class.
Yes, in-person classes, guys, and I know we're We're still getting through all the COVID stuff, but I'm telling you, in person, it's nothing like in person. We do this, we're thankful for the technology that we have here, but I just love being out and connecting with the people and, guiding them through this type of thing and watching how they spread this news around. And that's our goal. Our goal is to train you, help train you so you can, talk to people in your community and let them know this is available. And again, we hope you never have to use it, but if you do, you have basic training to be able to assist someone if they ever needed it. And we're believing that we're going to be able to get out more and stretch out more even in our communities and continue to teach these in-person courses.
So before we sign off, I do want to make note and a reminder of one is check your workplace, check your community centers, wherever you go frequently to see where is a first aid,
Yes.
where is an AED, even maybe a fire extinguisher, because then it gets you aware of where these are
Yes.
and where they're not. And if they're not at your workplace or your community center, your church, then I highly encourage you reach out to them to start that discussion of the importance of having all three: a fire extinguisher, first aid kit, and an AED. And truly, all of these things can be lifesavers.
Yes, all of them, yes.
And if you're in an area that has Pulse Point, if you live in King County, guess what? It's available throughout the county.
Yes.
Download the Pulse Point apps. There's two of them. One for incidents that are happening around your area. It'll notify you if there's someone in sudden cardiac arrest who
Yes.
needs help. And the other one is the Pulse Point AED app that will tell you where one is. You could also register one if you acquire one for your place.
Yes.
And then you could also call the dispatch center to let them know, or register it through the county
Yes.
to let them know where you've had an AED. That way everyone is more aware of where these are located, right?
And it's a simple procedure, guys. It's not hard. You just call the dispatch center up and they'll ask you some information, the location, and it makes it so much easier, not just for the fire service, but mainly for the people who are there to know it. Because you call 911 and they see your location and they say, do you have an AED if it's available? And they say, yeah, you have one there. Here's where it's located. And they can send someone to get it. And you can register them. If you're in a place, just ask the whoever the supervisor, whoever's there, you have an AED, is it registered? Because a lot of them just have them and they put them up, but they're not registered. So the only people who know about it is hopefully the people that work there at least know about it. But what about someone who doesn't, right? And you call 911. And that's how we connect everything together, guys. And I'm telling you, it's going to, I think we're going to see some significant events where people were resuscitated because of what we're talking about right now.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, it's available for free, both applications, on Android and on iOS or iPhone devices.
Yes.
And Johnny, I just want to thank you again.
Yes, thank you, David.
For helping us out.
Yes, I so much appreciate it. And David and I have been doing this. I'm just so kind of used to working with him now. It's been a lot of fun, and we're getting things out into our community, and that's what we want to do. Yeah. Yep.
And if you want to learn more about CPR, again, go to our website. I'll link it down in the description below. It's seattle.gov/fire, and you can search for the Medic 2 program there.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.